On this April Fool's Day, your ABC 40 is working hard to make sure you don't get fooled. That's why tonight, the 40 Force is focusing on cyber scams. ABC 40's Chris Pisano joining us now from the newsroom to tell you more about it. Chris?
Well, Dave, every year the scams seem to get more and more sophisticated, but in the end, the goal is always the same: to separate you from your hard-earned cash. And the numbers are astounding. Take a look. According to the FBI's most recent Internet crime report, they received almost 290,000 consumer complaints. Of those, nearly 115,000 reported loss of money, for a total of more than $500 million. That's an 8.3% increase in reported losses from the previous year. The average dollar loss overall, it's just over $1,800, but the average dollar loss for those reporting an actual loss, $4,573. That's a lot of cash. And the key word is reported, because not everyone reports when they've been scammed online. A lot of people are embarrassed to admit it. It's not hard then to imagine all those numbers truly underestimate the problem. That's why tonight the 40 Force is here to help you. We'll tell you about some of the most recent scams making their way online and what you can do to protect yourself. We have a panel of computer experts standing by live to take your phone calls. No one's called in yet, so you be the first. Give us a call right now with questions and concerns regarding computers and computer scams. The number is 846-0240. We'll be here till 6:30. Dave, back to you.
Chris, thanks. And up next on ABC 40 Force is cyber scams. We'll take a look at one of the most common scams, and that's spyware. Maybe April Fool's Day, but that doesn't mean you have to be fooled by online criminals. And that's why the ABC 40 Force is focused on cyber scams tonight. Joining us again, ABC 40's Chris Pisano with a look at one of the most common online scams. Chris?
Yeah, Dave, it's common because it's so successful. And while you may not recognize it by name, spyware, you've probably seen it at some point on your computer. You're surfing online, maybe checking your Facebook page, and you innocently click on those ads listed on the left side of your screen. Then this pops up, an official-looking page that declares ominously, your computer has been locked.
It'll say that it's the FBI or United States Cybersecurity or some other government agency, that you've broken some kind of law and that you need to pay a certain amount of money using a money pack card that you would buy at a Walgreens or something like that in order to get it released.
And while your computer is definitely locked, it's definitely not the FBI. This is a scam. Even if you send money, you might not get the use of your computer restored. After all, you're dealing with criminals. But the FBI virus, as it's sometimes called, isn't the worst. That title goes to the crypto locker, which states your personal files have been encrypted. And the clock is ticking.
If you don't pay them the money, not only is your system locked up, but even if you bring it to us to clean, your Word files, your Excel files, things of that nature, you cannot access them again. So it just underscores the importance of backing up your data.
To be very careful when you're online. Now, there is no way to be 100% guaranteed that you'll be 100% safe 100% of the time when you're on your computer, but there are some things you can do to increase your odds. Now, joining me to talk about that is Barry Benham from Left Click in Amherst and a second location in Northampton. So what can we do to I guess, decrease our odds from being scammed by spyware?
Well, there's a lot of things you can do, but I'm going to start by saying what you shouldn't do.
Okay.
What you shouldn't do is you shouldn't just do a Google search for, how to prevent spyware and download the first application you find, because that's probably a bad idea. That application is either going to be spyware itself, or it's not going to actually do anything to prevent spyware from getting on your computer. I would also be hesitant and I'd feel bad about clicking on a link from an email from a person that I don't trust the source, or alternatively just going to untrustworthy websites. Those are generally the three things I would say that will prevent spyware from, coming and taking over your computer.
Short of that, though, sometimes you can click on what you assume is an innocent-looking web page, and bang, your computer is held hostage. What do you do at that point?
Well, there's a few things you can do. I mean, we would recommend bringing it to us, obviously, because we'll be able to take care of it for you. But if you want to try and take care of it on your own, what I would do is I would use another computer that isn't infected by anything and type in the symptoms that you're seeing on your computer. If other people have been seeing these same symptoms, it's probable that that's something that's happened to a lot of different people. So, follow those directions, see what you can find, and if it doesn't work out, give us a call.
There's always the experts
There's
like
always us.
Barry Benham from
Yep.
Left Click of Northampton and Amherst, and he's one of the guys, one of our experts on the phone. Give us a call right now, 846-0240, to talk to one of them until 6:30 tonight. Dave, back to you.
Chris, yeah, thanks. I mean, when my computer's running fine, I'm great. But if not, that's why those folks are there.
And done.
Now, coming up next on the ABC 44 cyber scams, an old email scam that's new again. Well, tonight, the 44th is celebrating April Fool's Day by making sure you don't get fooled online. ABC 40's Chris Pisano back now in the newsroom with a look at one of the oldest forms of internet scams. Chris?
Well, Dave, it's the ABC 44 cyber scams tonight, as you mentioned, and it's not hard to imagine that shortly after the first person sent the first email, the first fraudulent email followed with a link to a virus.
We've all gotten those emails from time to time. A Nigerian prince wants to share a fortune with us. Maybe we've hit the European Internet lottery. There are hundreds of variants of these scams with just one thing in common. They all want your money. Because in order to get the big prize, you first have to send them some cash for those transaction fees. Or maybe the email requests you to click on a link to access certain forms. But that link is simply a way for the scammer to infect your computer with a virus. It's something computer expert Stan Prager calls an old-school scam. But recently it's been updated. One variant is called the FedEx virus.
The FedEx virus is known in the vernacular as that because it typically is an email that you receive that purports to be from FedEx or some other responsible agency that claims that the package that you shipped or some other transaction you did didn't go through. Click on the attachment to find out details of it.
But when you do, you've just released a virus into your computer. Now, another common virus scam going around is the funeral email for an unknown friend. Just click on the attachment to find out who it is and details about the service. But again, you're only infecting your system with a virus, giving a criminal access to take over your computer and steal your personal information.
So your best bet, your best advice, always, it's very easy. Just don't click on a link unless you absolutely 100% trust the person who sent it to you. And even then, I would be hesitant on clicking a link. Now, if you have any questions about internet scams or problems with your computer, call in right now. We have a few experts standing by, some computer experts, 846-0240. They are here till 6:30. ABC 44 cyber scams on this April Fool's. Dave?
All right, Chris, thanks. Good advice. And up next on cyber scams, rogue security software or scareware. What is it and how to avoid falling prey? Well, even though today is April Fool's Day, criminals never take a day off when it comes to trying to rip you off. That's why tonight, the 44th tackles cyber scams. ABC 40's Chris Pisano back in the newsroom now to tell us about something called scareware. Chris?
Yeah, by now, Dave, we all know that getting a virus is not a good thing for your computer, and the scammers know that as well. That's where something called rogue security software or scareware comes in. Joining me now to talk about that is Stan Prager from GoGeeks Computer Rescue of East Longmeadow. And this is really an interesting sort of scam because it's smart on the scammer's part, isn't it? Everybody's worried about getting a virus. Explain how spyware works. How scareware works.
Well, scareware basically tries to convince you that there's something on your system already. Essentially, one of the elements of this is called a rogue security program. What happens with a rogue security program is a screen suddenly pops up on your computer and says you've got 5,000 viruses, and it looks like it's scanning, and it looks like a legitimate program that is infecting your system.
And speaking of that screen, not to interrupt you, but this is what one looks like. Attention, danger. It looks pretty official and pretty scary.
Yep, and you'll notice that it says Win 7 Internet Security, so people believe that this is a real program. Often it'll be branded with something like Microsoft, perhaps Norton. It looks like a legitimate company that's appeared. Many people don't know what security software they have on their system, and they think, oh my God, this is real. But in this case, this is the virus. This is the spyware. This has hijacked your system, and you see it wants you to register. If you hit register, it's going to ask you for money. Usually $69 tends to be the standard. You give them a credit card number, and this screen goes away. They may, however, still have implanted something on your system, and they have your credit card number. So never fall for that.
So I imagine you should be suspicious if anything pops up on your screen and the end point is a problem can be fixed if you send money.
Absolutely, yes, yes. Unless it's your own antivirus program, which has expired, which sometimes people get confused by. So let's say you're using a Norton or an AVG or Viper or something like that.
I'm confused already with
Yeah,
all that.
well, yeah, it can be confusing, and that's why it's important to have good security on your system and to know what you're using and what you're paying for.
So if something like this pops up on the computer, and I can say this has happened to me.
Yeah.
What do we do? Can we just click out and reboot our computer, or should we see an expert about it?
You should definitely see an expert, because if you don't, no matter what happens with this screen, they're on your system. So one of the things that people like to do is system restore, because Microsoft has often touted that. But that's the worst thing you can do, because if you do a system restore, it'll bury this deep inside. So it's like taking a human virus and burying it deep in your body, and it's still there in the background. And it will come back. And so for instance, if these people have penetrated your computer, they're in there. And they could be necessarily installing something that could be hijacking your personal information, stealing your passwords, getting your personal information. So I recommend get it to an expert immediately. In most cases, it's not the end of the world. It can be cleaned. We can make the system right.
We know you can. Stan Prager, thank you so much, Dan.
Thank you.
Get back to your phone. Again, the 44 is helping you with your computer problems and cyber scams. Give us a call tonight, 846-0240. We were just learning about scareware. Very scary stuff indeed. Dave?
All right, you're a tough taskmaster. Get back to the phone.
That's right. Hey, we're paying these guys, you know.
There you go. Yeah. Chris, thanks. Up
Sure.
next on ABC 44, cyber scams, another very popular scam going around for people who use Microsoft. Well, our 44 is focused on cybercrime tonight. We've been showing you different ways criminals are trying to steal your money through your computer. ABC 40's Chris Pisano joining us again from the newsroom with the Microsoft scam. Chris?
Yeah, Dave, the vast majority of personal computers, in fact, the computers we use here in the newsroom, run on Windows. That is the Microsoft operating system. And in just about a week, Microsoft will be ending its support for Windows XP. Now, that might sound innocent enough, but it is providing scammers with yet another way to try to rip you off.
After 12 years, support for Windows XP will end on April 8th. There will be no more security updates or technical support for that operating system. Microsoft hopes you'll migrate to a newer operating system, but scammers hope they can steal your money first. Without updates, your operating system becomes easier to breach. Even under the best circumstances, an OS is vulnerable.
The fact is that nothing's 100%. Antivirus, firewalls, anti-spyware programs, these are like vaccines you get against disease. They're not 100% guarantee you can't get sick. It's just if you have good protection, you have a better chance of not getting sick.
Recently, criminals have added a twist to the online scam. They call you claiming they're from Microsoft and there's something wrong with your computer. And of course, they want to help you for a fee.
Nobody could possibly be calling you on the telephone to tell you that they know that your computer is doing something wrong. Okay, it just can't happen. All right, but because computers are still somewhat scary for many individuals, and because it's the technical aspect of it can be above many people's heads, they're not as geeky as I am perhaps, they're going to think, well, geez, maybe I am sending out spam. You know, my computer's been running slow, maybe it is infected, right? But these telephone calls, Microsoft would never be able to reach you and connect your computer with their office.
And hey, I'm guilty. Computers are kind of scary for me as well. Very technical stuff here. Now, bottom line, if you get a call like that, realize it is fraudulent. And for heaven's sake, don't give out any information. Certainly, don't give any money. If you think it might be a legit call, and I guess chances are it could be, take down their phone number and try to figure out if it's a legitimate phone number and call them back. At that point, you can probably figure out if it truly is your bank or Microsoft or it's just a scammer trying to scam you out of your cash. Here's one number, though, that is completely valid. I guarantee it. 846-0240. You can call in right now and speak to our computer experts. They're on the phone, but give us a call. We'll put you in the queue. If you have any questions about internet security, problems with your computer, or online scams, we'll be here until 6:30 tonight. Dave, back to you.
All right, Chris, thanks. And coming up, we're going to tackle the issue of internet security. So we've been tackling cyber scams. We've alerted you to some of the most popular and some of the sneakiest ones around. joining us now for more security tips as we wrap things up. ABC 40's Chris Pisano in the newsroom. Chris?
Yeah, Dave, 90% of all Americans have a computer or some sort of computer device, and a whole lot of those Americans have several. So it's not hard to imagine that at some point, at some time, we will get in the crosshairs of an online scammer. So we want to wrap things up with what you can do to be proactive and try to stay as safe as possible. Joining me now is Ray Ragusa from Ram Ray Solutions out of East Longmeadow. And Ray, this is a question from one of our viewers, actually. She wrote to us and said, what should a home user have for internet security?
They should have a full suite of programs, including antivirus program, an anti-spyware program, a browser protection program. They should make sure the firewalls are turned on, and they should make sure their subscriptions are up to date. A lot of people have the programs loaded, but they don't pay the yearly subscription, so they're not getting the latest signature files for the antivirus program, and they're no longer protected.
Now, I kind of understood what you said, but I can imagine that's why guys like you are in business, because of guys like me. If I can't keep track of what type of virus protection I have or firewalls, I should see somebody like you, shouldn't I?
You should, but once you load the programs, everything after that is pretty automatic.
It is.
When you get a notification, it's time to renew. You'll give them your credit card information, and you'll just continue right along. Probably one of the best things you could do is buy a multi-year subscription so it never runs out or won't run out for 3 years or something, and then you won't have to worry about it.
Well, let's talk about buying. What's a reasonable price for one of these security programs?
Anywhere from $0 if you download Microsoft Internet Security Essentials, up to $100 or $150 if you need a real good, strong firewall and browser protection.
We've talked, of course, about personal computers, but a whole lot of people have iPads now, Nooks, Kindles, smartphones. Are those vulnerable as well?
The biggest vulnerability of those devices is somebody stealing it or you losing it. And if you don't password protect the device, then everything you have on there is going to be available to whoever winds up with it. There are antivirus programs, there are firewall programs that you can contact your phone supplier and they can let you know where to get those. But really it's the theft and loss of the device. Make sure everything is password protected.
There you go. Takes a little footwork. All right, Ray Ragusa, we appreciate it. Ram Ray Computers, back to the phones, Ray.
Okay.
There is still about 6 minutes to call to get your cyber crime questions, your computer questions answered. 846-0240. Dave, back to you. And between you and me, I've got a lot of work to do to protect my computers, that's for sure.
I think we all do, Chris. We kind of take it for granted now. If you missed any of tonight's 44 cyber scams, you can always watch them on our website, WGGB.com.